Hello and welcome to The Well-Dressed Mind, where we explore the intersection of personal style and professional success. I'm your host, Lindsay Nicholas. In this series, we'll have honest conversations with accomplished individuals, leaders, creatives, entrepreneurs about how they've built their lives, their careers, and their identities. Because style isn't just what you wear, it's how you show up to the world. It's a signal of self-worth, a reflection of values, and sometimes a quiet source of power. Here, fashion isn't frivolous, it's foundational, and I can't wait to share these stories with you. So today I am here with Jenny B. Davis, and I am so incredibly excited for this talk. I will talk a little bit more about why I'm so excited for this talk very shortly. But Jenny is one of the most genuinely rare people in fashion. So you're, aside from being a professor at SMU, you are a licensed attorney, an award-winning journalist, a published author, an editorial stylist, and for the outlier, a certified Star Wars cosplayer.
Yes.
So you have 25 years of writing across law, luxury, and fashion, the natural go-togethers, of course, and you bring a perspective on style that is simultaneously rigorous, irrelevant, and deeply considered. You're also the author of Style-Wise, a practical guide to fashion and styling, and revising author of Writing for the Fashion of Business. You hold an LVMH certificate. You've been photographed, or your work has been photographed by the legendary Bill Cunningham. Unbelievable. One of my favorite movies, by the way, is that documentary on Bill Cunningham.
He's amazing.
You've attended New York Fashion Week every year since 2007. Based in Dallas-Fort Worth area, you also write a column for the ABA Journal. You work as a freelance fashion stylist for clients including Dallas Market Center. You've also launched 2 fashion lines of your own, earning Macy's Emerging Designer placement and a New York Times write-up.
Yes.
Okay. So that's it. That's all we have to talk about. There's really nothing else. All good. So I flew in just a couple of days ago, actually not even 48 hours ago. So I flew in and I was having trouble sleeping last night. So I went down the rabbit hole, like I've known of you, and this is the first time that we've met. I went down the Jenny B. Davis rabbit hole last night and looked at all your styling work, and it is unbelievable. I don't even know what to say.
Thank you.
This is one of those conversations. We have some show notes of how we want to talk. I just want to dive in. I want to find out, tell me about your life. What's the order of appearance? How did you go from being a child to having all of this incredible experience in such different fields?
Oh, wow. Well, I'm 55. So when I've done a lot because I'm UNC. So I'm 55. So it's, and I have, done a lot. And
so what was your first passion? So you have law in there, you have teaching in there, you have styling in there. What was first? The order of appearance. How did things flow from one to the next?
I think that it was in order of the discovery that I could do it for a living.
Okay.
And I could kind of professionalize it or monetize it. My mom, both my parents are professors, and my mom was a working artist for most of my life. Both my parents are still alive. And both are retired, but my mom was a working artist up until a couple years ago.
Wow.
So I grew up with her doing gallery shows. I grew up in the 70s, and she was like a funky artist, painting her gallery space. She was a potter, so she made ceramics and ceramic sculpture. She made all of our dishes. We were like a big hippie family.
Okay.
My dad's a history professor. He made beer. We grew grapes. It was super random.
Was she into style as well? Was she very fashionable?
My mom went to the Boston Museum School, so I think she
Okay.
was a little groovy, and my dad was a big giant hippie. They were both Vietnam War protesters. They were marchers.
Okay.
So I just grew up very free range in a way that most kids I think did in the 70s. Who has a key to your house and comes
Yeah, I think we left at when school let out at the end of June, and we showed back up in September.
Right? We just rolled up and no one knew. There was no Instagram, no socials,
Thank God. We've said over and
Seriously.
over and over and over again. Yes.
There's a lot of
goodness,
behavior that could be tamped down if you knew that you had to take your film to the phonomat.
Yeah.
But so I really grew up just infused with making art and respecting artists and entrepreneurs. But then I always knew that I was expected to have an education. But there wasn't a lot of guidance in between. So I grew up with a lot of economic insecurity. And so by the time I got to college, which I went to Arizona State because that's where my dad taught, because there was no money to go anywhere else. And I was a German major, so I just, to top off the weirdness. And I knew two things. I knew I didn't want to be an artist, and I knew that I didn't want to teach. So,
and here I am. Here you are. And where did law come in? Where did law go into that?
I mean, honestly, it was just in thinking about what I could do to have a career where I'd make money. You know, I never wanted to think that that I couldn't support myself. And but I love a lot of aspects of the law. My brain doesn't work in the way that would ever make me like the best lawyer. It taught me how to think, and it taught me how to work really hard. And it taught me how to find information, because they don't teach you the laws in law school. They teach you how to find things and how to concept things and just how to work your ass off.
And it's real left brain, right brain.
It's
like
very
you're
left brain,
definitely
right
doing some things that are completely
I'm
different.
a list maker. I'm very organized. Like, it teaches you to think about.
I'm a list maker too. It has to be on paper.
It's very cathartic.
It's very cathartic, and I love crossing things off my list. But I'll remember my handwriting. Like I'll make notes, and then I'll have my list, and then I'll like take notes if I'm in a meeting, and I almost never have to go back and look at them, because it imprints in my brain once I've written something
You're
down.
like a tactile learner.
Exactly.
So I mean, that goes along with design too. You know, touching the materials, draping the materials, concepting it. But so I just learned how to think about every day in a 24-hour chunk, because you're always very time sensitive and accomplishment sensitive. But it also taught me, in practicing law for a small amount of time, it taught me to really just be ego-less with my work, because everything that you're doing is to serve the client. And however that happens, and it's oftentimes, especially as a baby attorney, it's a group project. So you do what you think you need, and then your partners come in and your managing attorneys come in, and they just craft this thing, and you set it off, and you don't know if it's going to work.
So it's very collaborative. I guess
it's very collaborative.
I guess if I take the thread perhaps that runs through, and correct me if I'm wrong, if I take the thread that runs through all the different things that you do, they're all collaborative, because obviously you can't be a stylist without a model, without a photographer, depending on how you're styling.
And it's all collaboration, and it's all creativity. And you can be creative within the law. I think the best lawyers are incredibly creative and just out of the box thinkers. And they're willing to try different approaches to things. And you always have backups. Like it's very process oriented, but you also, I think creativity needs restriction. So, or else it's just stressful and wild. You need to be able to have something to work off of. So, so the collaboration has been across, it's a through line, the work for the client. And I think in styling, it's very important to understand who your client is, and you are hired to achieve a goal.
Absolutely.
But then it's a process, and you help them, and sometimes they don't even know how to get to what they want. They don't know how to articulate it. They don't know how to represent it. And then I really just love helping people. One of the things I loved about practicing law is I loved all my clients. I loved their stories. I did immigration law for a time in law school, and then also through a clerkship. And I just love the people. And it's daily life is crazy, and sometimes we have our priorities messed up in the United States. Like, one of my big goals when I graduated from law school is to have a Kate Spade bag.
It's very funny. You are not the first person on this podcast to talk about that as being
Kate Spade bucket bag. It was huge.
I was I worked in marketing and advertising before I came into this business, and I worked in Soho back in the late 90s. And Soho was not what Soho is today. I think I've talked about this in another podcast, but one of the only stores there was Kate Spade. So of course, being always loving fashion, I would go out on my lunch break and I would go to Kate Spade probably almost every day.
Was she there?
She wasn't there. Like, she did have other people working in the store. I'm sure she came in at that time.
Right, because she owned it in the 90s.
Yeah, probably came in a lot. And then Jack Spade, and I remember when the Jack Spade bag came out. But it was just, it was so iconic just to have that. And she was such a creative, amazing free thinker. But I think you're the second person on the podcast that's one of the big things was to get a Kate Spade bag.
I might be the only person on the podcast who went without heat for several months because gas was included, but not electricity in my lease. So I heated my house with my oven so that I could save the money to get that Kate Spade bag.
Okay. So I did, not
fashion.
to turn the spotlight, because I have so much I want to talk to you about, like so much. I was actually one of those people. I got divorced many years ago. I'm very happily married now. But I got divorced many years ago when I was living in New York. And I said, I'm redoing the apartment. So I redid the kitchen. And I took the stove out to have more room for shoes.
I mean,
I did it. I have to admit
priorities.
It. Got a convection oven, and then I had enough rooms that I'd make sure that whoever I sold it to could put an oven in, like it was in the right place. But I did. Yeah, sometimes you have to make sacrifices
You have
for
to
these
make
things.
sacrifices. But pulling it back. Working in immigration, people that were my clients just wanted to not have their kid abducted for ransom.
Gosh.
Like they were just, you know, it's a balancing act, and it's all about perspective. But I think making sure that you have that perspective and that you're doing something that is fulfilling, but also there's an element of giving back, and gratitude is so important to whatever you do.
100%. So you go from immigration law
To general civil business law and litigation, and I just didn't love it. And so I was lucky enough, I was single, I've always prioritized just having a good life and I always prioritized money, and then once I was in that position where I wasn't being fulfilled by what I was doing, and I was paying for myself, and I didn't have kids, and I didn't own anything other than my car, I just thought, well, I could make this change now, and I could go into something that I really want to do, and I can prioritize experiences and like figuring out who I am and what serves me, what feeds me, over just the paycheck and the stress.
And
so,
how did styling? So did you know it was styling, or when you
so
were
no,
sort of
I went
exploring?
into working for a magazine.
Okay.
So I was like, I don't know how to run a magazine, but I know how to like keep a federal litigation like on track, and I get it done. So, and I'm willing to learn, and obviously the pay was very low. So I went to work for a magazine in Dallas and just figured it out. And then the magazine was launching another magazine that was catered towards special occasions. And they said, we need someone to style, so you are going to be our stylist. And I had wonderful people helping me, and I just figured it out. So I figured it out.
When you were in law, were you interested in clothes? Like when you started like making money, having a nice paycheck, were clothes sort of one of your go-to places, or was it more around experiences?
I mean, at that point it was, I've always loved clothes. I've always loved designers. I've always loved makers. So I think it's the clothes, but it's also like that creative entrepreneur. Seeing my mom sell her pottery, and I just know how hard it is to be a maker and a designer and an artist in the world and be independent, So, my mom would like buy art from the artists, and she would like pay a little bit, it was like a layaway for art. But, she always prioritized like working with artists and having cool shit around the house,
Okay.
and like everything had such meaning. So yeah, that was, but you don't realize it at the time. And then looking back, you're like, oh, I see where that motivation
You can piece it all together.
Yeah.
And now at SMU, you're teaching journalism, and you're teaching fashion, you're teaching styling.
Yes, so at SMU we have a fashion media major, and the fashion media program is housed within the journalism division. So fashion media has a journalism component, but it also involves fashion history, styling, and then just foundational fashion tinged courses. So I've taught fashion journalism before, which is basically just journalism about fashion.
Yeah.
It's all the same basics and responsibilities and process. But right now I'm teaching a sneaker law class, which is a phenomenal textbook. And it's basically just basics of business, but within a sneaker context, because I love streetwear and sneakers, Adidas, all day.
Yeah.
So I'm teaching sneaker law, and next semester I'm teaching a streetwear history course. Also, I'm teaching styling. Every semester I teach styling, either 1 or 2 sections.
I was going to ask you a question how do you teach styling? And I imagine that with the students that you have, they probably run the spectrum of people that think it's one thing.
It's not shopping.
They think it's one thing, or it's all about getting an Instagram following or things along those lines, when it's actually a really tough business.
Absolutely.
So how do you, I guess, looking at the different types of students you have, how do you, first of all, how do you teach styling? I'm just one
Right,
question, and then how do you teach it to people that maybe have different motivations?
Well, I mean, whatever their motivation is, like, they're in it. They're in the class. So it's like my way or the highway, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm very clear about my expectations. There's a textbook that I wrote.
Yay.
There's, you know.
We'll put a link to that, by the way, in the show notes. So anybody that would like to
Thank you.
purchase this book, the link will be in the show notes.
Yeah, and you know, there's a lot of free online resources also out there. So I basically look at styling in 3 components. So first of all, it's understanding just what the types of styling are, what it entails. So it's editorial, commercial, personal, celebrity, and runway. So each of those, you know, I think that there's a misconception that styling is shopping or styling is this one thing, when really there's, I believe, 5 parts, and each of them is very distinct in the way that you approach a project, who the client is, where you get the merchandise, what your responsibilities are with the merchandise. And then within that, there's all sorts of differences, like what pays more, what pays less, what's more creative, what your responsibilities are, like, you know, do you have a budget? Does the person do we have Photoshop? You know, is it an image? Does the person have to move and get out of car and go to the bathroom and what you're putting together? So, you know, everything is so different. Are you creating cohesion on a runway? Are you casting? You know, there's every part of it is distinct. So we talk a lot about that, but we start with the first area, which is just understanding the power that you have as a stylist and how the process of image making, the references that you have at your disposal, movies, past collections, what motivates people to get dressed. We read a book about body image and how, you know, really concepts of how you think about beauty and beauty standards, how you think about your own body, why you're pre-programmed to think big boobs good, big butt bad, you know, small waist good, like all of the things that women throughout history have put their bodies through, whether it's corsets or bustles, or hoop skirts, which, by the way, every year a number of women died because their hoop skirts caught on fire and they couldn't get them off. So then we moved to surgery, to fillers, to injecting your face with botulism, which I recommend, but also it is a toxin. So,
and now the GLP-1s, you know, like that's changing, and obviously body positivity. Like there was so much, I think, probably pre-COVID, a lot about the different shapes on the runway, and then it sort of stayed, and then all of a sudden it almost became a fad. Absolutely. And now all of a sudden you have these people going down the runway again, and you've got a lot of emaciated, unwell girls.
But then you have Galliano, who's playing with anatomy. You have the Tabby shoes playing with visible anatomy. So, you know, there's all sorts of understandings of what story you're telling, for example, in editorial. But there's also an understanding of, like, everybody has body image issues. You can talk with the top models. Everybody has something, and if you want to still have a job, you need to understand, you need to be able to balance that. There's like a psychological component. You need to understand, like, you might be upset that you're a size 10 and want to be a size 2, but, like, do you even understand the sizing system was based on white women? You know, like, and a lot of people just don't know that, and there's no standard sizing system. It means nothing.
And there really should be. It does. But even because I have stores in Australia and stores in the US, and the sizing is quite different. And it's not just the way the pieces are cut, it's just what someone considers a 10 in one country, even though like a 10 is a 6, but the 10 and the 6 are actually quite different.
And why do you care? And why do you care?
But there should be some sort of standard, I think, where people can buy your size, and you know what your size is. Obviously things are going to be, you know, different cuts, but I do think it should, you know, even shoes now. Like I was always like, I know my shoe size, like your shoe size is your shoe size. And now all of a sudden that seems to have changed a bit.
I mean, if it's Spanish, it's going to usually be true to size. If it's French, it might be a little smaller. But I mean, those are all things that a stylist needs to understand to serve their client. And then the third component of that, so you have just understanding the system, understanding designers, understanding the history of designers, being able to recognize cultural appropriation when it's in a designer's work or in compiling your own combination of brands. So that's the component of just like the I guess, educational part. And then you have the hands-on part, which my students get with their final project, working with a designer and working to a styling brief, and then also being able to create their own editorial project. And then the third component, which I don't talk about as much in my class, but I do talk about in the book, is that every stylist is really an entrepreneur.
Okay.
So you need to understand how to build a business, what you need to file, what you need to have, the importance of credit cards in styling, insurance, just the importance of understanding how to network, how to build your Instagram brand.
It's a commercial business at the end of the day, as we talked about.
You have to do taxes. You have to be able to keep up with your invoices. And I'm terrible with invoicing. I hate it. I had a store for a couple years on Camp Bowie and in Fort Worth, and I learned that I'm a good business person when it's just invoicing and manifests and things, but I am not a SKU girl. I love working with designers, and I love spending money and putting together like the optics of a store, but like I need to be on someone else's payroll. I learned.
Yeah, it's there's definitely things about
like
being a
utmost
business
respect for that.
Yeah, there's being a business owner, and actually, interestingly, I am not a born entrepreneur. Like I never grew up saying I want to be an entrepreneur. I've always said I'm a really great number two, and that's my happy place. But this was just something that it just
when your name's on the door.
When their name's on the door, that's
a lot of responsibility.
Yeah. It's
your name's on my jacket. Like
but it's not my natural place. Like I had to go there, and I think it took me because I started my business right before I turned 50, and I think it took me that long to get to a place where I was like, okay, I've got enough experience behind me now to do this. But
absolutely, and 50 is like the kind of like I found it's a time of life of like zero fucks.
Yeah,
I mean, 50
100%.
has been freeing for me. I'm gray. Like I'm just here for me. I've done the kids are gone.
Yeah.
I hit all the benchmarks, and now I'm just like, what? I have the runway in front of me is shorter than the runway behind me, so there's a hustle.
I see that a lot. I see it with our clients that a lot of women, like you've worked your butt off to get to, you've done all that, and then all of a sudden you get to a point, and it's like, I want to enjoy my life. Like what projects you take on, I imagine this is the same for you, need to be meaningful to you. Like you're not just gonna sort of phone it in. You're not going to work for a bad boss. You're not, there's certain things that you're just like, no, that's not going to happen. I'm not going to hate going to work. Like I have to like going to work. Like that's got to be a really important part of my life.
I think you come into your own, you come into your values, and you understand your value more and what you bring to the table. And if that's not vibing, you move on and you trust yourself. Like I spent so many years like wondering when my next article is going to come from, or like, what if I need to get to that next rung. And now I'm like, let's,
because you also know how you're going to handle things.
Yeah.
I think that's something that it took, like I'll have a fear of things that may happen in the future. And I'm like, I know from past experience that, knock wood, like whatever's thrown at me, I'm going to be able to deal with it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I would like fewer things to be thrown at me. I might bring that point up, but it's, you just get to a point, like I know who I am as a human being, and I know I'm resilient. Absolutely. So I'm going to, whatever comes, I'm going to be okay with that.
And you understand the fragility of life too. I mean, I never necessarily thought about my health. I was not like a sunscreen girl, but I just, seeing friends battling health issues, and I'm just want to keep moving. There's a motivation.
What do they say? I think it was Michelle Pfeiffer or something, and who's I think she's in her 70s now.
She looks amazing.
And they're like, that's the new 40. Like 70 is the new 40.
And she's still working.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I want to be working till I'm not. Like,
I
want to slide into home just like.
Me too, absolutely. Yeah. So I went down the rabbit hole last night looking at some of your styling, and just so impressed with everything that you've done. Like literally, like was going through, I was like, this is amazing, this is amazing, this is amazing. So
I see my skirt there, I see my shirt there.
But the funny thing is, I was telling Allie that I was going through it, and it wasn't just like beautiful, which it was, and it wasn't just like amazing angles and the photography was amazing. It was, I want to buy that.
Good.
So I was looking, I was like, whose skirt is that? Like it really evokes an emotion when you look at your work that makes you want to take action. It's not just like, oh, that's a pretty picture for a pretty picture's sake. Like, we have a wall in the back of the store here where we have our target client. We call her Amy, and she's this amazing woman. Like, she's this amazing, really well-rounded, creative businesswoman. And we have pictures of who we think Amy is, so we can sort of, it's like almost a brand filter for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
That when we're creating new pieces,
the brand persona.
Like, yeah, exactly. So, like, would Amy wear this? Would Amy like this location? Would Amy have this for dinner? Like, just sort of like getting a different perspective. And your whole board is a bunch of Amy's.
It's Amy. Tens across the board.
Amy. Zorro snap.
Yeah.
So it's incredible work. So
thank you.
Are you still are you still doing law? Is law still part of your life?
I'm still writing for the ABA Journal.
Okay.
So, and I'm teaching the sneaker law class.
Yeah, I guess.
And so, I think law should be part of everyone's life.
Yeah.
It's absolutely fascinating. Lawyers are the coolest people. They're so hardworking and they're so fascinating. I love people that are that high energy.
Yeah.
And the law is always changing. Every administration, law changes, like the FTC, everything that affects us is, as we know, changing for good and for bad. So, and we all have agency about what laws and how we want to be governed, which is really exciting. So, I'm still involved in it. The only thing I'm not doing is actively practicing it, which brings me joy.
Okay, yeah. So you get all the
My
benefits.
loans are paid off. Yeah,
you get to touch it, but you don't have to be looking for the case that's about this case to get the right language, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So what's next? What's next for Jenny?
What's next? I am in a degree program to get my doctorate at SMU through the Simmons School. And I'm finishing up my third year, so I'm moving into my dissertation. And I'm really excited. I just can't wait to dive in and put it all to work.
That's
and then hopefully I'll defend it and I'll be a doctor.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
So, it's gone fast. Time passes whether you do the thing or not.
Yeah.
So, it seemed kind of daunting in my 50s to start, a 4-year doctoral program while I was working full time, but the time would pass whether I did it or not. And I don't like to look back and think, oh, I wish I would have done that.
Yeah. And I'm sure you got a lot of enrichment out of the courses too, because
it's been transformational.
Because I think you do, as I said earlier, like you get to a point, maybe when you're younger, you're taking courses to tick the box that you've done that. And I know, just having been to like INSEAD and some other programs as an adult, that I find everything's fascinating.
Yeah.
Because you've lived more. If it's you've been to that place, or you know the company that you're doing a case study on.
Right.
That there's actually real human behavior behind it that I find just like fascinating.
Yeah, and it all just becomes part of you, and it's more that you can bring to the table. It's enhanced my teaching so much and my understanding of being a learner. And I think if you don't feed your brain eats itself. That's terrible.
That's a great
to think about. But
that's a great expression.
You've got to keep moving. You've got to keep learning. You're still creating neuro pathways.
I want to take your course.
Yeah, you come anytime. Come talk to my students about your entrepreneurial journey.
I would love to. Yeah, I'm the accidental entrepreneur, I think, because that's not where I was planning on heading. But it's been a most amazing chat.
Thank you so much for speaking with me.
Oh my gosh, I was normally like, I'll plan ahead for a podcast, and like I'll have a few questions in my mind that I want to talk. This is the first time that you and I have actually met in person.
Because I've seen you from the runway.
Yeah, and I've been admiring you for ages, and knowing so much about you. And this is the first time that we've actually had time to sit down and chat. And there's, even after the camera stops rolling, there's about 10,000 things I still want to talk to you about, part 2. So I do hope you come back and join us again.
Thanks for the jacket.
Yeah, fabulous. How fabulous.
Styling in the jacket. Thank you very much. It's been such a joy.
Thank you.